Hey, my little baby, how you doing? Looks like you're growing really good. All right. Oh. Why would we want to make a sourdough starter? Well, sourdough starter is very important if we want to make sourdough bread. It's wild yeast that's been captured from the air and from the flour that you put in here. And over a period of time, the little colony of lactobacilli, I guess is what they call it, the colonies start to grow. It's said that you have about 50 million of these little critters in like 1 tablespoon of starter, which I thought was very interesting. And by using this with your flour and water and your salt, it allows for a nice, beautiful rise, and it also imparts this wonderful yeasty bread brewing smell into the bread itself. And that's that smell and that taste that we want when we're making a sourdough bread. And making this is really easy, and it only takes a few minutes every single day if you want to do it every day. You actually can do it once a week. Let me show you how I make my sourdough starter so that you can get started if you haven't already. No pun intended. All right. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need an empty container. Now I'm going to use this mason quart jar here, but you can use, plastic cup kind of thing here, or containers, whatever you happen to have around. They even make these nice little ceramic jars that are specifically for creating your starter. I happen to have one, but I'm not using it at this time. Now, to make this, we're going to need a digital scale. I happen to have one right here. Okay, so you definitely want to have one of these. It's not necessary. You can kind of eyeball it, but when it comes to making sourdough bread recipes and so forth, it's always better to be able to weigh out all the individual ingredients. And so we're going to do the same thing with our sourdough starter. So to start off, I'm going to turn on my digital scale, let it zero. Then I'm going to put my empty jar, and of course it's weighing the jar at this moment, so I'm going to tar it, and it's going to zero it out. Okay, and most of these digital scales, I'm sure, has that tare feature there. Just tear it out. Tear it out. I like that. Tear it, and it zeros, and so we can start from scratch. I have another little tool that I like. You don't need it, but it allows me to do this without making a mess. Of course, it also weighs something. In this case, 36 grams, so I'm going to tare it again. You want to start at 0. All right. Get yourself some flour. Now, you can use whole grain wheat flour. You can use all-purpose flour. You can use bread flour. You can use rye flour. Any of those flours are going to work. I have AP here, but my sourdough starter over there, I actually started it on sprouted whole wheat flour, and then I started doing AP in it, so now there's a kind of a little mixture there. I like to keep my little buggies in there guessing as to what I'm going to feed it every day. So we're going to make it out of AP. Now, what I would advise is don't get the bleached flour. Make sure it's unbleached. Organic is even better. Whole wheat, if you grind your own, all these things, or rye, any of those things. So let's use this AP, all right? We're going to get right to it. I usually aim for about 75 grams. So I'm going to throw 75 grams of flour into my jar. There's 70. There's no hard and fast rule as to how much you start off with, but since you're going to be feeding it from time to time, don't put too much. More than 100 grams is really a waste. There we go, 75 grams. Some do 50, some do 60. It's all up to you, but whatever you start off with, make sure that's the same amount of water that you also put in there, if you're going to do it the way I'm doing it anyway. All right, so I'm going to just tap the rest of that flour in there, get that out of the way. All right, and of course I'm going to now tare it so that it says 0, because I want to put the same amount of water as I did with the flour. This is called 100% hydration. So I happen to have some water right here, and I'm going to pour in 75 grams. $75, right on the nose. All right. I now have 75 grams of flour. I have 75 grams of water, and we're going to mix it up. A wooden spoon works really good with just the handle part, and go in there. I'm going to use this silicone spatula looking thing here. And you're just going to mix it up. And it's going to look like a very thick paste. Okay. So it's kind of a thick paste, but that's all you need to do. Okay. Now that's all you have to do. What I like to also do, by the way, which is a good idea, is go in there and scrape the sides. If you're using a glass like this quart mason jar, if you're using a plastic container or something that you can't see inside, you can definitely skip this. That way I could see how much this thing grows. Now what you want to do is you want to get yourself a rubber band. I happen to have one here. So I got myself a little rubber band here, and I'm just going to put it in the bottom. And see, why don't you go ahead and zoom up there. And I put this rubber band on here to where the top level of this sourdough mixture, this starter mixture is. Now this is the way I do it. I just put this little paper towel because it breathes. You want to have a little bit of breathing, not much. Some people, they'll just put a lid on here that just sits lightly. And I take the top of the mason jar, in this case here, without the centerpiece, and I'm just going to press it on just like this, nice and lightly. And you want to put it in a nice warm place. Don't put it anywhere that's cold. It really will make the process of making the starter take so much longer. So what I do is I'm just going to go ahead and put it on top of my freezer, my refrigerator, and then each day I'm going to come back and feed this. So I will see you on day number 2. Well, it's day number 2. Good morning, by the way. And just as I expected, you're not going to see anything really happening here. Now you have a choice. You could add another 75 grams of flour and 75 grams of water, mix it up and set it away. Or you could just leave it as it is. For day number 2, that is. I'm just going to leave it as it is because that's how I did my sourdough starter. Just giving it a little bit of time to, do something. We'll see you on day 3. Good morning, everybody. This is day number 3. Now, just to bring us up to date, on day 1 we put 75 grams of flour, 75 grams of water. We mixed it up, put a rubber band on it, put it on top of the refrigerator. Day number 2, I didn't do anything. There was no point in it. You're not going to get a whole lot of action in the first 24 hours or so. However, now this is day number 3, and in day number 3, there were 2 or 3 little bubbles starting to pop up there, so there's a little action. Anyway, I start my first feeding on day 3, and then every day after that. The procedure is very simple. I won't be doing the procedure here because I had done it, but I didn't have the volume on in this camera. I don't want to have to throw this good fresh stuff out. So I'm going to explain exactly what I did. It's very simple, and it's what we're going to do every single day. And that is pour out all of the starter in your jar except for 75 grams. Keep 75 grams. Then you're going to add 75 grams of flour, 75 grams of water, mix it up, move your rubber band up to where it needs to be, the level that you see right there, where how high the flour and the water is. Cover it up with the paper towel so it can breathe. Just press the lid on like this, put it back on top of the refrigerator. On day 4, which we're going to do here in a second, in other words, for you it's a second, for me it's tomorrow. It'll be the same thing, and I'll go ahead and I'll demonstrate day 4 since you didn't get to see day 3, but it's going to be the same thing every single day. It's very simple. We'll get rid of half of this, leave 75 grams in here. We'll add 75 grams of flour, 75 grams of water, and we just do that every single day. At some point, this is going to double up or triple up. When you see it double, triple up, you know that your starter is ready for making bread. By the way, for day number 3, I decided to use my sprouted wheat flour that I did in my very first video. You might want to check that out. There's a link to it right there. And if you see how to make your own sprouted whole wheat flour. I started this with the AP flour. I switched up here to my sprouted. I made my original starter, which happens to be right here, and I'm about ready to feed it. Smells really good. I made this starter originally with the sprouted wheat flour, and then I just switched to AP because it's cheaper and easier for me to get to than having to go through the process of making the sprouted. And I leave the sprouted for my recipes. But in this case here, I went ahead and gave it some real treat. I like to treat the newcomers here and get them going quickly. So there you go. That's it for day 3. There's nothing to do other than just put 75 grams of the original. You're going to need a digital scale for that. That's why you want to get one. 75 grams of your starter, and then add in a new 75 grams of flour and water. 75, 75, 75. It's so easy. That's why I chose 75, because it works for me and it's easy to remember. People have different ways of doing it. There's no right or wrong way, as long as it's able to make a nice leavened, flavorful sourdough bread, which this absolutely does. All right, I'm going to put this on top of the refrigerator, and I will see you in day number 4. Okay, so we got a little bit of activity here, and today is day number 4, and I mean that is pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and feed it some more of my sprouted wheat flour here, just as I did on day 3. And to do this, I'm going to just put a clean mason jar there, the same kind of jar I'm using here, and I'm going to zero this out. And to start off with, and this is the way it's going to be every day, day in and day out, if I want to feed it every day, or it's the way I'm going to do it once a week if I want to do this once a week and put it in the refrigerator. But I'm going to start off with 75 grams of the starter. Put that in the new jar. Now, of course, you could always just reuse the same jar if you want and just take out everything except 75 grams, but I find it's easy just to rotate my jars here. There's 50 grams. Okay, and that's close but no cookie. 64. Get a little bit more going here. All right, there we go. There's 73. All right, good enough. I'm putting 73 in there. Okay, and zero it out. Oh, it just went to 74. Okay, close enough. And now I'm going to put 75 grams of flour, if I have it. So I'm going to use this funnel here. Okay. And zero it out again because the funnel weighs 35 grams. And let's see if we got 75 grams of flour available here. I am running low. I'm going to have to make some more. $72 for, well, 74 grams. Hey, 74 grams of starter, 74 grams. I mean, I'm not going to get too crazy. Yep, 74. All right, and then I'm going to do zero it out again, and I'm going to go with 74 of clean water. $72. $75. All right. I think these little beasties really love that sprouted wheat flour. This one's actually working a lot faster than my first one did. And I'm going to mark this so I know exactly how high it is when I put it on top of my refrigerator, right there. All right, and now it's going to go on top of my refrigerator. Don't forget to put the little cover on, and I'll just hold it down with that, and there, it's good to go. Okay, now we're on day number 5, and take a look at that. We have activity. See that it started to grow? So we now have captured the yeasties. Got all that bubbling going on in there. Yep, you can smell it. Now, it's not, of course, that strong, so you want to keep feeding it, but it's ready right now as far as it's got yeast. Now we're just going to make it a little stronger, so I'm going to feed it one last time here for this series. 75 grams, just like we did last time. Alright, so there's 75 grams right there. There we go. 75 grams of whole wheat. Alright. A little over 75 there of the water. Same thing, mix it up. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to clean the sides up because tomorrow morning I want you to see how high it went up during the day when I wasn't watching, so you'll be able to see this. Clean as best I can here. Put the rubber band back on. Mark its height. Okay, right there. Okay, and let's see what it does. Okay, this is still day 5. As a matter of fact, it's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon or evening. I want you to look at that. This starter is fully active. This is just the 5th day, so that is really one very quick starter from start to finish. So there you go, folks. That's how you put together a starter from start to finish in a matter of 4 to 5 days. This is ready to make bread. Well, that's all that's to it. I mean, we're only talking about 4.5 days here. Today is day 5, and it's only 4:17. I fed it this morning, as you know, and it has already doubled in size. Has that yeasty smell, that smell of brewing beer. And the thing is, this one here is a young starter. It is only 4.5 days old. It will ferment your bread. It will allow your bread to leaven, to expand, to grow. But as you continue to feed this starter regularly, then it becomes stronger and it will actually have even more strength in lifting your bread up. Let's quickly go over what has transpired here. When I started this for you with 75 grams of flour, 75 grams of water, use a digital scale. Mix it up, put it in a warm place, out of direct sunlight. You don't want to get it too hot that it will kill it. I put it on top of my refrigerator. On day 2, you can do the same process over again or just leave it alone. Not a whole lot happens in just one day, so I just leave it. Like I showed you, I didn't even bother to feed it. Didn't affect it one bit, as you can tell. Only took 4 to 5 days for this thing to become fully active. But it's your option. You can certainly feed it again on day 2. That's your choice. On day 3, take everything out except 75 grams of the starter and add 75 grams flour, 75 grams water. Stir it up, put it back in a warm place. Day 4, take everything out and just leave 75 grams of the starter plus 75 grams of flour, 75 grams of water, mix it up, put it back. You see a pattern here? Just do that every day. Now, let's say that you do not make bread every day or every 2 days. Well, you may not want to keep feeding your starter every single day. Well, guess what? You don't have to. What you can do is, once you see that your starter is active like this, you can just put it in the refrigerator. Leave it alone. A lot of folks like to just feed it once a week. They let it get active, they put it in the refrigerator. Leave it alone. When you need to use it, take it out of the refrigerator, take how much you need, make your levain, your poolish, whatever it is you want to do, and then refeed it, let it active, put it back. Meanwhile, your levain in itself is going to start to ferment and grow, and it's the same thing as allowing it to warm up after it comes out of the refrigerator. No difference. Another thing too is, how much do you actually have to leave in the jar for it to remain active? Well, there are bread makers that just use the scrapings that are left, the dried on starter that's left in the inside of the jar. That's not a problem. 75 grams of flour, 75 grams of water, mix it up. It will be active just like this. You can go ahead and use it to make bread. So you don't have to keep a certain quantity in here for it to remain active. At the worst case, if there's no food for that yeast, it will just go dormant. So that's all you have to do. If I missed anything or you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please give me a thumbs up. And again, any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, because in the next video that I'll be uploading, we will be using the starter to make a simple sourdough bread that is, take my word for it, it is really good. Thanks, and see you later. Good morning. It is now day number 2. Don't bother. Don't do anything. I'll see you in day number 3.